The Kang Dynasty is heading for a collapse. The Avengers movies and the plan for Marvel, unlikely now to happen. That's based on new evidence that is coming out, unsealed for the very first time in regards to text messages and other issues all surrounding Jonathan Majors, who is playing the Kang character in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. While we here on the Pro Channel always go with the presumption of innocence, we also have to say that this doesn't look good and that Marvel needs a plan B and they need it fast. We're going to talk about it. We're going to tell you what they might do. Sit tight, folks. Let's get started right now. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the WDW Pro Channel. Happy to have each and every one of you. It always is an honor when you choose to spend time with us here on the channel. Thank you so much. Also, thank you to John F. Trent and R1 Avalon for joining us for another video. John is the editor-in-chief of thatparkplace.com, and Arwen Avalon is a guest who has been on the channel many times, but none recently. Arwen, I'm so happy you're back.
So am I. Yay! Thank you, Pro, for having me. I'm glad we could get together this time.
That's right. And folks, as we get into this article here that's going to be coming out of People Magazine, I just want to say that we don't take any pleasure or any happiness out of the failures of others. We don't. This is not a joyful thing that we do where we're so excited to get to cover Jonathan Majors and the X and the issues that are here. We also know that it's kind of tricky to even talk about this stuff on YouTube. The last time I attempted to do a video on this, it was flagged. And so, we have to be careful. We're going to try and report the truth as best we can. We're also going to provide the presumption of innocence here, but we're also going to be realist. And so there are some real issues here that are coming to light that Marvel needs to have a plan in place. But let's read it, and then we'll find out what we think about it. Here we go. Out of People Magazine by Emily Palmer. Jonathan Majors appears to admit physically attacking ex Grace Jabari and text messages entered into evidence. The text messages regarding an earlier incident were previously deemed inadmissible at trial. In text messages between Jonathan Majors and accuser Grace Jabari, the Marvel actor appears to admit to having attacked his now ex 6 months before Majors was arrested in March and charged with assault. I fear you have no perspective of what could happen if you go to the hospital. Majors, who is 34, texted Jabari, 30, in September of 2022. They will ask you questions, and as I don't think you actually protect us, it could lead to an investigation even if you do lie and they suspect something. In that message, Majors also stated, it's just fake, but based on the messages put into evidence, it was not clear what he was calling fake and no context was provided in court. In the text messages displayed to the jury and read into the record by Jabari on her fourth and final day on the stand on Friday, Jabari appears to assure Majors that she would not blame him for allegedly causing injury. I will tell the doctor I bumped my head, Jabari cried as she read aloud the message in court. Then, unable to continue through her tears, Assistant District Attorney Kelly Galloway took over. I will tell the doctor I bumped my head if I go. I'm going to give it one more day, but I can't sleep and I need some stronger painkillers. That's all. Why would I tell them what really happened when it's clear I want to be with you? And so this is, at the least, appears to be a destructive relationship. Folks out there, if you're in a situation that's similar, be safe and take all the precautions you need and find good mentors to help you navigate what can be very tricky situations. This appears to be one of those, but unlike these very tricky situations that sometimes entangle even the best of people, this has another layer to it, and that layer is that Jonathan Majors is involved in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and he's not just involved in it; he's the key villain in all of their movies going forward for the next phases. And now there is at least the appearance, and perhaps more, that he is a true villain in real life. Let's go to Arwen first. Arwen, I want to cede to you on this one and say, what do you think Marvel and Kevin Feige should do with all of this that could make it impossible to continue with Jonathan Majors?
This is a mess. It is a mess because we've already seen something along these lines with Johnny Depp. When all these accusations came out, it was very polarizing. Of course, there were going to be people who were in support of him, people who were in support of Amber Heard. And of course, being online with social media, it's like everything is out in the open now. It's not the golden age when, contracts with studios would have their actors know, You need to, stay quiet about this, do this, where all the actions reflected not only back on the performer, but also back on the studio. Now everything's out in the open. But here's the thing. I do agree with the, innocent until proven guilty. And sometimes that gets hard to do when people do really nasty things. And, what he's accused of is no joke. But it's like, they are in a pickle, because here you had Disney cutting Johnny Depp loose right away before anything was litigated to its final form. And now we have this. Yeah. Are they going to stick with him? Are they not going to stick with him? Are they going to let it be litigated to its final form before they do anything? I don't know, because I get it. A studio has to protect itself and make money. I understand that. And when there are those bad associations, they're going to end up being hit as well as, anyone else. But at the same time, do you cut someone free? Not knowing all the facts and not knowing everything, and potentially affecting their livelihood and the livelihoods of their families just to protect yourself? I don't know what they should do at this point. There is no clear roadmap on what should happen. And if Kang is, how much of Kang has actually been recorded? We've had 2 movies so far, correct?
Well, he's been in it? Yes, plus he's been in the Loki series.
He's been in the Loki series. Okay, this character is established. Now, with this character too, with Kang, I think anyone could play him as far as it being reasonable, because, Kang has different looks, different metamorphosis, whatever. I think they could make it work. But should they? I don't know. We are so quick to say, okay, this person is guilty beyond a shadow of a doubt, when nothing's even been completely litigated yet. I don't know what they're going to do. And frankly, I don't know what they should do. I would not want to be in their position, is all I'm saying.
John, when we look at the box office projections for Aquaman 2, we can see what happens when studios handle this poorly. So in the case of Amber Heard and Johnny Depp, it seems like the studios did not handle that well. Amber Heard will, of course, be appearing, although we don't know to what extent, in Aquaman 2. And after all of the proceedings in those lawsuits and those cases, she has not come out looking very well. So very probable that that's actually damaging the box office probabilities for Aquaman 2. Disney here, they treated Johnny Depp one way, as Arwen said. Now they're not treating Jonathan Majors the same way, but I don't know what the way is that they should go, except to say this, and you tell me where I'm wrong on this, because I'd like to not be wrong if I am. It seems to me that Jonathan Majors comes with some additional baggage beyond what Johnny Depp had, where Jonathan Majors has a number of different people who all think that he is at minimum someone who has acted erratically. And so I think that Marvel should probably try to go ahead and move to recasting or using a variant idea to get away from this. I don't see where this goes that it can go better for them. Even if he comes away from this, without, well, let's say unscathed legally, I still think this is going to be problematic for Marvel. What do you think?
Yeah, those text messages that we read earlier look pretty damning, pretty convincing to me. Obviously, as we said here, innocent until proven guilty, and I haven't really been paying attention too much to what's going on in the trial. Obviously, it's still being litigated. 4th day there when those texts were being read, and I'm not sure if he's actually testified or gone in front of the court yet or that yet. But they did look pretty damning to me, and I think you would want to maybe distance yourself from someone who is acting like that way, because I think you do have a prerogative to ensure that your safes are set. And if he's doing that to the person closest to him, I think it's safe to assume that he might be doing that to people on your productions as well, and you wouldn't want that to happen. And you could lead to other possible legal problems with him. As far as recasting, I think that this legal trouble here is the least of their worries when it comes to the future of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I think they have a massive story problem to begin with, anyways, and I think that's the same issue with the DCEU. I think obviously Amber Heard is a big problem for them, but as we've seen over the past couple months here, with massive box office bombs like The Flash, Shazam, Fury of the Gods, and what was the most recent one, Blue Beetle. I don't think Amber Heard's probably affecting it to an extent, but I think the bigger extent is that they're killing off the DCU anyways. And I think that Marvel has a very similar problem where they don't really have any story moving forward. I think the Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania film is an example of that. They were touting Majors and Kang as the next big bad, and it lost money. Even though it made 400 million or something like that at the box office, it still lost money based on its production budget, marketing budget, and all the other costs and expenses that go along with it, as well as the theatrical cut that the theaters take. So I think that's
also
their
sank like a rock after its opening weekend too. That I think that's important to take into. Yeah.
Huge notes dive, and then obviously the Marvels is even more pertinent now. The worst MCU film in all history. It has performed worse than even The Incredible Hulk from 2008, not even adjusting for inflation. And I think that tells you something there. I think they have a massive brand problem. I think they have a massive story problem. And I don't think that this Kang storyline that they are pursuing in the first place is something that they probably should continue doing, regardless of whether Jonathan Majors is found guilty or comes away unscathed. Whatever the answer is, I think that you just got to move away from that storyline in the first place. You got to kind of get back to basics. You got to get, I think that the win for Marvel is a really solid X-Men film, and moving forward with the X-Men, because the X-Men, even before the Marvel Cinematic Universe, they were the bread and butter of Marvel Comics. I still think they are kind of the bread and butter of Marvel Comics. For the most part, when people talk about the best Marvel runs, I feel like it's a lot of times it usually is X-Men books. So that I think that's where you really need they really need to focus on is creating. Really
John, have you seen what they've done
X-Men
to Nightcrawler with Mystique?
Yes, I talk about the comic books, but I know exactly what they're doing now. I want to make sure I'm not talking about modern Marvel comics.
I know. I just
modern Marvel's terrible.
I'm just terrified, John. I'm just terrified. What they'll do.
God.
But that goes to the point of what I'm talking about, right? They have a massive story and creative problem across the board. And again, it's not just at Marvel Studios. It's obviously at Marvel Comics. We know that's one of the main things that Nelson Peltz has even talked about. He wants to restart their creative engines because he's even seeing that the entire company has a creativity problem. And I think we see that again. Pixar, we see that at Disney Animation, Wish being the latest example there. You can look at Lightyear last year with Pixar. So it's across the board. And but yeah, I think you have to go with X-Men if you want to do anything with the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I know there are a lot of people that probably are going to say just kill it, and I'm probably, if I'm being honest, I'm probably in that camp. I don't really see it going forward anywhere anytime soon. You probably want to let it rest and then maybe bring back the X-Men in a couple years when people have kind of for maybe put aside a lot of the madness that you've been pushing on them the past couple years.
Well, John, let me ask you a question, because I did a video this morning and it covered Indiana Jones, The Dial of Destiny. And a significant part of that video involved going back and reading some of your earlier work where you laid out the lies and the deception and all of that. And it was fascinating to me now in retrospect to go back and look at all of it and follow the timeline with everything we know now, which is that Spielberg started off with a script that had Indy, Marion, and Short Round on a last great adventure. And then that was tossed aside when James Mangold joined in with Kathleen Kennedy, and they introduced, again, the same idea that they had done with The Force Awakens, where you bring in a strong woman who's better than the men, and just like in The Last Jedi, Indiana Jones got Jake Skywalkered. And then there was the lashing out. There was the nonstop attacks on YouTubers who had accurately scooped this. And John, you had covered all of that. And what's fascinating to me is that this has somehow affected all the major production sides of Disney. It's not just Lucasfilm. It's Marvel. It's Pixar. It's Disney Animation. They have all collapsed. John, what is happening that has collapsed every part of this company and perhaps other studios in Hollywood as well?
Yeah, I mean, I've talked about this on a number of occasions here, especially on your channel. I think obviously bad leadership is probably one of the main reasons. Bob Iger, you point the finger at him. If you look at his track record, he really hasn't created anything of value. Most of what he's done is he's purchased things that were already valuable, such as Lucasfilm and Marvel Studios, and he's kind of piggybacked off of their successes. And I think did pretty well with the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Mainly continue that through Endgame, but as we've seen, once a lot of the creators who were originally part of that have kind of moved aside, there really isn't anything left there. And I think a lot of that does stop at Bob Iger. He is the one who claims to be this guy who is working with all the creators and gets the creative engine going. And he even was took this position as like the top creative guy at Disney while he was letting Bob Chapek somewhat steer the company, I guess. And what has he created? Lightyear, a box office bomb. The Marvels, box office bomb. It's box office bomb after box office bomb. And it's been that way for probably the past 2-3 years now. So I think the buck stops at Bob Iger, and you can just look at how he's kind of reshaped the company into kind of his image. We've talked about Reimagine Tomorrow, how that has completely infected the entire company throughout. There's the Stories Matter project as well that they have. And then And just to see how kind of that stuff has infected there, like the quotas and everything like that, we've seen this in this Reedy Creek audit now as well, that's all throughout the company, even when it comes to how they're picking contractors for the Reedy Creek Improvement District to clean up trash and things like that, run their utilities. They're doing race-based hiring through that. So this is all throughout the Walt Disney Company. I've been covering this stuff for years now. I think it all starts with Bob Iger, and he's hired a bunch of people who are his acolytes and follow him. You can just kind of look down through the entire Disney organizational structure, and most of the people that are still there, they're all on board with what Bob Iger is doing, and they execute what he wants to enact. And so, I mean, it's just a massive infrastructure problem that they have based on their talents. And then obviously, because he's enacted this, you see people that have left, moved on to better pastures. And a lot of those people were their creative people. So they're have a creative brain drain. They've got a technical brain drain because technical people have left as well. You just look at the VFX stories that we've been talking about with the Marvel Studios and all that, how they're unionizing and they're just sick of Marvel kind of overworking them and leading to kind of all of these crunches and just poor products.
And yet, despite that, John, despite Disney attempting to have this facade of virtue, and you've rightly pointed out that behind that facade is not much, maybe a septic tank of morality at the mouse. But Arwen, at the same time that Disney is struggling with this Jonathan Majors issue, they're also being sued by apparently 9,000 female employees for gender-based pay disparity. I can't figure out exactly who it is that Disney is making happy. So they've got a problem with men. They've got a problem with women. Arwen, final thoughts on this. Tell me what in the world Disney could do to get themselves out of this situation and back into the good graces, not only apparently of the public, but also their employees and women as a whole.
Oh, Pro, that is such a loaded question.
What can they do?
At this point, hey, look, this is the thing. When you watch a slug kind of, trailing along the ground, and you see
when you start with a slug, it's not going to be a pleasant metaphor.
Yeah. Have you ever noticed when the slug trail actually ceases to look wet and gross? That's where Disney is. Disney is the slug trail right now. Okay. The only thing that's going to clean it up is if you get out there with your cleaner and your rag and you wipe it up until the ground sparkles. Now,
Arwen, there's so many out in the audience, though. They're ready with their salt. They don't care about cleaning up the slime trail. They've got the salt ready.
I was going to say, but Disney is still the slug. So yeah, you're going to have to get your salt. You're going to have to get your, whatever it takes to take care of the slug. They are so far in right now, unless they just said, look, and they came out and they made a public statement, which I doubt in a million years they'd ever do. If they came out and said, okay, we are getting back to home-based family entertainment. We have strayed off the path. We've gone so far that, we're 90 degrees from where we started out as a company. We are going to go back. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your patience. Here we go. And even then, I don't know if it would work. They are just so far down that rabbit hole, and they've become so corrupt and internal as a company. It's all about their agenda, not about what the company can offer the fans, and offer new fans, and offer the people that are watching. They forget, you got an audience. We're here. We don't want to see what your vision is for your politics and whatever. We want to see Disney become what it used to be. So I don't know what they can do. I really don't. I just think they need to be transparent. They need to wipe everything and start fresh and start clean and reevaluate what their, what is it, that thing where you, like a mission statement? They need to reevaluate their mission statement as a company. What are you about? What is Disney about? What is Disney's brand? Because they've lost their brand. They're no longer
all of that
Disney.
Is true.
So,
it took years for them to get in this place, Arwen. It's going to take them years to get out, and I don't think they're ready to make the turnaround.
No,
but I do think that based on the box office results, based on the drop in merchandising, I think the market has spoken loudly, and Disney can either acquiesce to what the market wants, or they can continue with their vacuous virtues, which put them in a place, by the way, where they can't make a good decision regarding Jonathan Majors because they have lost the high ground when they have all this other stuff. John mentioned RCID, mentioned all the situations with their creative teams. You're seeing this right here with the female employees. Disney doesn't have a moral standing. And the level of cognitive dissonance this is creating in all of the hyper Disney fans out there who have loved this company for decades and can't wrap their mind around the idea that it's been very corrupt for at least a decade, probably more. That's it's making it harder and harder, I think, for those folks to figure out what to say and what to do. It's even put the mainstream media in a place where I don't think they know what to say or do, but here we are nevertheless. Well, guys, I want to thank you for being here today and helping us walk through these very tricky situations. Disney has so many fires. And yes, folks out there, we will be returning to the audit. We needed to take a break today and talk about Indiana Jones and this situation with Marvel, but we'll be back to the audit out of Florida, where we believe eventually the mainstream media will eventually have to cover it in the right way, which is to tell the truth, because it's just too big. And when those actions begin to cascade, they'll be forced to cover it in some way that it actually tells what's going on. Right now, they're not in that mode yet, but we're here giving them their notes for the weeks and months ahead. We're happy to do so. Folks, if you're happy that we do that, consider clicking the like button, share, subscribe, and when you click it, you stick it to the algorithms. Drop a comment down below. Let us know your thoughts. What do you think about Jonathan Majors, the situation there? What do you think about all of these other fires that Disney has? As you drop your comment down, remember, folks, to be as kind and as polite and as truthful as you can be. We appreciate all of those things. Folks, make sure to find our guests by clicking on the link down in the description below. I know that you will love their content, and wherever you are and whatever you're doing, keep learning, keep growing, and keep having fun.
Listen up, my brothers and sisters. You've been listening to Phils and those with an agenda to destroy your brain cells for far too long. It's time to change your way of doing things. Hold up. TPP is the place to be. Covering the news so honestly. It's a team that's cool and tried and true. Ahead of the culture curve, they're trying to keep you. Jonas and Pro, they run the show, and they dragged in the bearded culture casino. You got Valiant and Lord and Fourth of Light. Wonderful people, yeah, they're alright. They got weird bringing in people like Floral, but made no mistake with Lorena Creole. Amelia and John, stuttering guitarist. Martin and Tawny and someone called CMS. Fat Steven makes a bunch of other graphics. Did I mention a partnership with Bending in the comics? Fat Sky is a guy and Doc Matt does the web stuff. There's probably some people I missed. I hope they're not telling you the news that should be fun. With accurate info that's not been spun. You can figure it out as you will see. The TPP is the place to be.
Yeah, Wilton. That was actually pretty good, or White. But I think you might have forgotten Vash.
Well, he lost all his friends. But it was implied.